High brooding temperatures cause dehydration and pasting. Low brooding temperatures cause chilling and pneumonia, which kills chicks in high numbers.
So on the day of introduction of chicks, we make sure that you use glucose, we'll use liquid paraffin, we'll use vitamins and some mild antibiotics. The importance of glucose is to give them energy because they have traveled for long and also prevent stress. The importance of liquid paraffin is to help them, to help in the movement of feeds and to prevent constipation. Vitamin is to help them on the growth, and the mild antibiotic, it could help them in case there is any form of infection, or in case there is unhealed yolk or yolk sac. We call it yolk sac. So those are the drugs that we'll use on the first day. We make sure first they should take the water first. And the water should have all those mixtures of glucose, liquid paraffin, antibiotic and vitamins. They take that water for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour. After that, we introduce feeds in the brooder.
Light is an important factor during brooding because chick activity is greater in bright light intensity than in low light intensity. During brooding, the light should be at the brightest intensity to encourage chick activity, assisting them to locate feed and water. Once they learn where the feed and water are located, that is usually around 7 to 10 days of age, the light intensity and duration can and should be reduced.
Since this place is windy, we decided to cover the place from which the wind is blowing from. We placed the polythene papers on the ventilation. They will be slightly lowered when the chicks are removed from the brooder later on. But for now, we keep on covering day and night. But of course, we have to let in a little flow of air so that the birds don't get overheated, which can kill them, and so that the heat is not lost.
Kamulu has mostly salty water. One of the requirements for poultry is clean, fresh water for consumption. Among the challenges being experienced by this first-time farmer are high costs since she has to buy water and feeds. The birds are consuming more than one bag of feed on a daily basis. With the cost of each being about 3,900 shillings, it is taking a toll on her, but she was well prepared.
Okay, the challenges we are facing right now, even before I came into the business, everyone was talking about the feeds being so expensive. Yeah, it's only the feeds. In Kamulu, the waters, it's a bit challenging also. Mostly the salty water, so you have to go out source for the clean water for the first 3 weeks, which I normally do, and it's a bit expensive, so that's another challenge. The weather at times is not so much favorable because of the wind. It's a challenge, but we are doing all our best to manage all those. Another challenge we are seeing is the heat, the electricity part, because when they're still so young, at least at the daytime, the heat is good, but at night, it becomes so cold. So we use a lot of charcoal because we are using both electricity and charcoal. So we are spending so much on charcoal and electricity at night because the weather is not so favorable for them. And the normal one of waking up every now, it's a challenge for the first 2 weeks, which we are prepared for it. Another challenge are the deaths. When they are brought in, there are some small ones which were still immature, so they die so fast. That's another challenge. But when that occurs, we talk to our suppliers. At least when they are so small, they always compensate.
When the birds are young, when they are chicks, in the chick stage, the farmer should constantly be on the lookout. She should constantly, she is constantly checking on the chicks to see that they are healthy, to see that the feeds are enough, the water is enough, to see that they are not congested, and that the heat is enough. So the farmer should be alert the first week, second week, third week when they're in the brooder, and also throughout. They should have constant supply of water, and the water should be of good quality, not too salty, not too hot, but the right temperature. We introduce feeds in the brooder, and in case of broilers, we start them off on broiler starter mash. We could also use broiler starter crumbs, and we'll start them off for 3 weeks. They feed on broiler starter crumbs or broiler starter mash for 3 weeks. And then from the 4th week to the 5th or the 6th week, we feed them on broiler finisher mash or broiler finisher pellets. That's what we do. But currently for these chicks, the farmer started them off on broiler starter mash, which they are currently feeding on. And after 3 weeks, the broilers should be removed from the brooder, and they should now occupy the whole house.
Every farmer desires 100% survival of chicks once he or she has bought and put them in a brooding house. Losses will, however, almost always occur, especially during the first 2 weeks of life. A mortality of 1 to 5% may be considered normal, but anything below 5% is abnormal and requires immediate intervention to stop further losses. Indeed, some of the causes can actually wipe out the entire flock. Clarice lost a few chicks on arrival. She was, however, lucky as her supplier compensated her.
During the brooding period, which is 3 weeks, a mortality of not more than 2%. If you get more than 2%, then there is an issue. And there are those factors, those things which can lead to mortality of chicks. We have predators that can attack the chicks, rats, we have wild cats, we have mongoose, which can attack the chicks. We have thefts, and then suffocation in the brooder. They can go to the corners and they get suffocated there. Noise can also affect them. Noise scare them. Poor quality feeds can affect their growth.
Newly hatched chicks do not have a high immunity level. If hygiene is therefore not maintained, a number of diseases responsible for early chick mortality will thrive. Proper handling of chicks during vaccination and other procedures should be well observed to avoid injuries.
We should consider the vaccinations. Like in the case of broilers, we give them 3 vaccinations. The first week, there is a vaccine which we'll give. Of course, there are different vaccination programs depending on the areas. Like in this case, we'll start them off on Newcastle vaccine in the first week. The second week, we'll give them Gumboro vaccine. And then the third week, we'll finish it off on the Newcastle vaccine. But for the broiler chicks, we'll continue with the vaccinations because they'll stay for long, up to 12 weeks. But for the broilers, they'll be sold off at 5 weeks, and they will have achieved a weight of 1.5 kgs.
Clarice is excited about her new venture and nothing is holding her back. Chicken meat is consumed widely and on a daily basis, so the market is waiting on her.
The first challenges I got, I said, hapana, I'm not giving up. The feeds are so expensive. My only prayer, if our government wanaweza kuangalia mambo ya tax, at least, if the feeds at least they can come down a bit, because like for the 70% of the poultry farming, 70% of it zinaenda kwa feeds. Yeah, so another thing, when getting into poultry farming, some people are saying there are so many poultry farmers nowadays, they are all over, but you know, this food, chicken, it's being taken like daily. When you do your market well, you can even do your market. For me, I'm planning to do my market like a week too. I'll be working in restaurants, institutions. There are so many butcheries who are selling broilers. I'll be walking into the hotels. I'll be asking them if I can supply them my chicken. I'll be walking. So farmers, wherever you are, msiogope, don't be afraid. There's no market. The market is flooded. There are so many brokers nowadays Farmers are afraid. They are letting in brokers to take their produce ndio waende wawauzie at a very bad price. Mimi nimesema I'll be going out, I'll be looking for my market, I'll be walking into the butcheries, I'll be walking into the supermarkets which are there. I'll walk, I'll go to the restaurants, I'll go to some institutions, I'll talk to them. Yeah, if you never know where your bahati lies, so I'll walk into whichever place that wants chicken.
For aspiring poultry farmers, Okuta advises on factors to be considered in order to have a successful and smooth sail through your venture.
For all those farmers who are starting out or who are planning to keep chicken, there are several things you have to consider. First, you have to look at the market. Before any other thing, you have to source for the market. You have to know your market. Study the market dynamics. Of course, you have to get information, and you get it from a qualified person, a person who is knowledgeable in the poultry field. Once you get the information, that will act as a map or a guideline so that you don't make any mistakes. And once you have the information, you have to know where you source your chicks. Of course, they have to be quality chicks so that you don't get problems further. You get the person who will construct the poultry house in a proper way, the way it's required, so that you don't get the challenges. Another thing, you consult your vet constantly, so that whenever there's a problem, the vet will come in. The cases of diseases, the vet will diagnose, and you avoid making guesswork and sourcing information from people who have no knowledge of poultry. And that's how you succeed. Normally, I am online. My consultation services is basically on farms. I visit farms, but I'm online where I advise farmers, encourage them, and I put in helpful articles on poultry farming on Facebook.